Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. We know you don't have time to watch lengthy professional development webinars, so we bring you 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to amplify your impact and not your workload. Today, we always talk about how can you be more productive, what can you do to feel better, and all those things, but we're going to take a little different direction today. And I want everybody, if you have a cup of tea available or something maybe a little stronger if you work today, to sit down and listen to this one, because we're going to remind you about the importance of the work you're doing. Not like urgent deadlines, but overall difference you are making in humans' lives. And we're going to do it through a gentleman who's a storyteller and who has had lots of experiences and stories that he has brought to life through a book. Because as music teachers, we're often focused on what we're teaching our students, but what if some of the most important lessons are the ones that students teach us? So today's episode is a reminder of the profound impact that music education has on the lives of students and teachers alike. If you've ever wondered whether the long hours and difficult days or endless challenges are worth it, I think this conversation is going to give you some perspective and encouragement you need. So sit back and relax. You don't have to take notes today on things you can do more of or do faster or easier, but today, here's why that all matters. I have a guest today, Dr. David Gregory, a lifelong music educator and author of the new book, Students as Teachers, Things They Taught Me, Life Lessons They Gave Me. In this book, he draws from decades of teaching music to young people, and he shares stories of former students and the unexpected life lessons they taught him along the way. His message is simple but powerful. Every teacher is also a student, and some of our greatest learning experiences happen through the young people that we serve. So, thank you, David, for being here today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Lesley, thank you for letting me be part of this wonderful podcast that hopefully is a bit of a boot camp that helps band directors. And in your opening comments, something to the effect that we all think that our jobs are impossible. Well, let me just assure you, they truly are. If you look at the mechanics of our business, it simply won't work. We don't have enough hours in the day. There's too much stress, physically, mentally. But we're not expected to do everything. We're just expected to do the important things. And I think that's what those of us who have experienced many years, have responsibility to say to those who are following. Find the important things and focus on those as much as you can, and not let the stuff of our business interfere with the essence of our business as much as we can.
So the important stuff, like the students.
Yeah. Novel idea. The students. What a novel idea, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk today a little bit. You're going to tell stories today. You're going to use your stories of students, of your students in particular, but of situations I'm sure most of us will have an opportunity to reflect on and go, oh, yeah, I have those kids, those particular kids in my room, and maybe what I do really is making even more of a difference. So your book is called Students as Teacher, and it flips the traditional idea of education upside down. So tell us what led you to this book and what you have learned through the process of writing it. I love the way you wrote it and how you gathered stories. So tell everybody what you were telling me before we got on the call.
Okay, thank you. I think that, as I mentioned to you, Lesley, I believe, and I've said this to students, undergraduate, graduate, high school, I say to students, ours is a society of stories. We tell our stories to perpetuate our society. And in particular, our profession is a marvelous profession of stories. We all know the history of our bands and the history of our music, the stories we tell, even the stories we're making up as we go along, the ones that we're creating, I shouldn't say making up, the ones we're creating as we go. Well, we could be making them up too. But I started years ago, I was having, 2 2 years ago, I was having a conversation with Tim Lautzenheiser, whom I've known his and my entire careers. And I was sharing with him a couple of stories that I had received from former students. And he said, David, you should reach out to former students and collect some of these stories. He said, you've had such great experiences and some success. Reach out and see what you can gather. He thought, I think you'll be surprised. Well, I did, and I was. I was surprised, pleasantly so, that the ones responded. And in the request, I said, send me what you took away from being in the band. And these were students from my very first year of teaching till the very last year I conducted an ensemble. Pretty broad spectrum, over 50 years. They came back, and with the disclaimer early on, I said, tell me what you took away. It'll be anonymous when I write it. It can be personal, it'll be philosophical, it'll be musical. I'm not looking for accolades. Tell me what it meant to you. And when they came back, some 30 or so responses I received, or I've used, 2, maybe 3 took away a musical lesson, if you will, a story. Most were personal. Most were very moving. Some said this was where I found a place I could belong. The band room was my place I found comfort. Music took me places I couldn't go before. This gave me opportunities never had before. On and on and on. And somewhere in that process, I began to think what they took away was also a format and a forum from which they taught me as they were going through these. So I began to reflect on some of my career and incidences that came up. Some were humorous, some were sad, some were tragic, some were poignant, some were very inspiring. All had that same message. And the message was, this was my story. I was teaching you this while I was sitting third chair alto saxophone in your band. So put these stories and lessons, if you will, in the format of stories. Never mentioned any names, and I assured everyone that I would be anonymous with information. And if whoever was being featured, if they were in the story, and they chose to say, oh, this was me, I was that person, that's their choice, but I would not do otherwise. Put those together. Part 1 was the stories, the collection of stories, the lessons I learned there, their stories. Part 2 was what they took away from being in the band over the years. Part 3 was, after I collected all that information, reflected on it. Part 3 was, after all of this, after what they told me, what they said they learned, what would I say to my profession? After having learned these lessons, what would I say to the profession? And over a period of 2 years, came the product students as teachers. And that's where we are at this point in time. I'm very pleased with how it's going. It's been out 2 months, just came out 2 months ago. And
it's so exciting.
It's great coverage. And, one of the things I'm hoping is it will make its way into college, universities, music education, and student teaching syllabi as supplemental reading, because it's not about how we teach quarter note triplets. It's not how we have the alternate fingers of the flute and upper register. This is about why we do what we do, and why day after day, when we come back, when we're worn out mentally and physically, we go, yeah, but I've got a rehearsal. And this is why we're convinced if we miss one rehearsal, our program will fall apart. We can't be absent. I know we have 102 degrees temperature. We can't be absent. That's why we do this, because somewhere in that band, there's a child sitting back there that needs you, because every day you show up and she or he sits in your band, they go, yeah, this is good. I can make it through this. And I'm seeing those children now that reflected that to me. So that was the story of the book. I loved writing it. Some of it was hard. Some of it was dark. There were a couple of stories that were tragic, and it was hard to relive those. But that's kind of where we are with this.
Yeah, I recently ran into a former student from many years ago, and he introduced me to his partner. This is my former music teacher. She taught me so much about saxophone and all. And I said, Josh, really? What did I teach you specifically about the saxophone? Because I had him in high school, so I didn't teach the beginning or anything. And I had him all 4 years in high school. I go, what? He goes, and he was thinking, and I go, like, tone? What specifically about just the saxophone? He goes, I said, it wasn't about that, was it? He goes, no. And then he had, both of us had this like aha moment, and it's what you've just described. It's we we essentially are giving them the space so they can get all the detail stuff down that they need, but the learning of the technique, but they have to be motivated enough and want to be part of that bigger system enough and see the value in it. And so I'm sure you found that through there as your students' lessons, like you said, only a couple mentioned the actual music piece. Instead, it was about so much more that then take into community and all that. Listen, I'm 60 years old and I still love stories. Can you tell us one of your stories of one of your students and what they had their takeaway was, and then maybe your reflection on it?
Let's start with the music takeaway. One student wrote, he said, I was in the band when my high school band, mine, played at Midwest. And I'm speaking to him. I didn't know what it was. I'd never been there. There was a huge event in Chicago. I knew it was important because my director was always fussing at us to make us better. So we arrive in Chicago, and we have several guest conductors, one of whom was Dr. James Nielsen, who at that time was the educational director for the G. LeBlanc Corporation. But I had asked Dr. Nielsen, would he guest conduct? And he conducted the Grangers, Banks and Brays, Obani Dune. How hard is this? Just 31 measures, right? But he was such a magnificent conductor. And the young man in the band said, during that concert, I was so moved by the music he created and the response of all of us in the band. He said, that was the moment I decided I wanted to be a band director, because I wanted to share that moment with all the other students that I could teach. I wanted to do the same for others that music did for me. And just recently, he finished his 42nd year of teaching and was awarded the Distinguished Career Award by his state music organization. And he asked me to come be part of that ceremony. Now, that's a pretty nice boomerang effect, if you will. That's a nice lesson.
Not too shabby. Wow, that's beautiful.
Not too shabby. And one other, very quickly,
I just have to say, how many people listening right now can relate to like a moment or that experience and they want to recreate it? So you guys out there listening, this is how it happens, and you're inspiring other people, and you may not know that nugget you brought to them, or that moment, that one spark that just lights a fire. That's so cool.
When you're least expecting it, that's when it will happen. Yeah. A young lady, she was in one of my high school bands, and she was okay. She was a great band member. She was a pretty good player. But after she wanted to go to college to major in music, and she did. And later she said, we kind of lost touch. And she said, it didn't work out too well, but I stayed in education. The music part was just too hard. I didn't want to practice enough. So I said, oh, that's a fundamental tenet. You have to do that. But she said, I haven't written to you in a while, but I wanted you to know that I did follow up in education, and I find that I can do the things for my students you did for me, and that was make me feel important. Listen to me when I had something to say. Even you never made me feel like a dumb teenager. And she said, now when I'm working with students, I find myself wanting to be their David Gregory. Oh, listen. Now, I'm thinking she was just a trumpet player in the band. And I'm thinking, no, that was a young lady whose life was changed just beginning the band and I never thought about it. I never thought that I was making her feel like, making her feel important. It's just the way we work. One other quick one, if I might, humorous story. I was, when I went to my first high school job, I was the 5th band director there in 5 years. Not bad circumstances, just the way it worked out. So I show up my first year there and get to know the kids. And there was one particular young lady played bass clarinet. She was bright. She was engaging. She was always one of those great band kids you want to have around. So the second year I returned, and first day of band camp, she walked by. She said, what are you doing back? She said, every year I have a different band director. She said, I thought I had a different band director every year like I do math teachers. So our relationship began there. We had a great time, great visit. But the story was mid-October. Keep in mind, mid-October. Where does that put you in the marching season? Dead center of the marching season. One afternoon after rehearsal, she barrels in after rehearsal, stops my office door. Mr. Gregory, I've just found out something. It is really tremendous. And I said, what? And she said, listen, I realized that while we're marching and playing, every beat, my foot is supposed to hit the ground. Every beat. She said, now it all makes sense. And I'm thinking, Oh, well, yes, it does make. And I'm thinking, what have you been doing the last half of this season? No, what have you been doing for 3.5 years in marching band? So she said, it all makes sense. And as I reflected on that story, I thought, that's the lesson of discovery. No matter when you discover something, she was a senior in high school, very bright. She had just discovered that, and discovery at whatever age is still fresh, it's still new. That was the lesson she taught me. But even now, I think back and going, for a year and a half, she'd been in my band, and she'd been wandering around on the field without it. But she was thrilled with it. She was labeled for success. Sure, she had great success in her life, and she continued that journey of discovering new things throughout the years. So
that reminds me of a kid I had one time, and he just was having a hard time staying with the band, and it was evident because he was a loud saxophone player. And so finally, in his frustration, he goes, "Oh, could you just do something to show us where that first beat is?" I'm like, "Well, I am up here waving my arms. What if?"
Yeah.
That magic place. I mean, what was he thinking? I was doing my workout every day.
What do you think? Musical aerobics or something? This means something.
So he might not have been the brightest tool in the shed. Probably a trumpet player, right?
No comments.
So, okay, I'm going to ask you a little bit a couple other questions, but first I want to take just a minute and do a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, the Empower Music Educator Academy. If you're listening to this while thinking about everything still on your to-do list, I see you. One of the reasons I started building tools alongside this podcast was because even the best strategies don't help you if you're too exhausted to implement them. That's exactly why I created Band Director Buddy GPT. It's a productivity and wellness tool designed to think like a successful band director and support the real work behind the scenes, the planning, emails, scheduling, and problem solving, and more, so you can amplify your impact without increasing your workload. If you're a busy band, choir, or orchestra teacher who wants a sustainable way to do this job, you can learn more at banddirectorbuddy.com. All right, we are back with the author of Students as Teachers, and Dr. David Gregory has been telling us some stories, reminding us of those kids that come in our classroom every day. All of them matter. All of them are taking something away. And then David turns the tables and says, as a teacher, I take things away from my students. So remind us of the wisdom of the kids and how that comes back as your learning experience.
Even at this point in my, especially at this point in my career in life, I seem to be more appreciative of those things that took place during my day, if you will, my career. What was the quote from Sophocles? One must arrive in the evening to see how splendid the day has been. True, that is true. But even early on, I suspected mine was going to be pretty good because I said these great kids that were, at that time I wasn't realizing, but at that time they were teaching me every day. Every day I showed up for rehearsal. Now we have a lot of comments or thoughts about creating a climate of excellence. Absolutely. Where do we do it? Well, how do we do it? That's not a checklist. It is a checklist box, but still, we created a climate of excellence by expecting excellence in ourselves. Those kids knew I was going to be at the band room every morning. The lights were going to be on when they got there. They knew I was going to be there. They knew what was expected of them, and it was their safe place. It was one of those things that came to them by my example. I had a student that in my early years of teaching, my first high school job was the year that the integration had moved full-fledged into the South, and finally we were moving forward. I had a number of students, 30% of my band had been moved in from a minority school system, and they were delightful, wonderful, wonderful students who just wanted to do well. See, I have this theory. I think people join the band because they had rather do well than poorly. It's our job and our opportunity and our privilege to show them how to do well, to be better. That's our job. That's our honor and our privilege. So this young man came in marching band season. Great kid, big old tall guy, kind of intimidating with his height. But he came in one day afternoon and said, can I talk with you? I said, sure, have a seat. He sat down, kind of unfolded into the chair in front of my desk and said, I've been thinking about this marching band thing. Every time I put on that uniform and we go out on that field to perform, I'm just like the first trumpet player. And I said, no, you're not. You're tall and he's short. You're black and he's white. You never have the melody. He always has the melody. He made all state. I have to push you to learn your major scales. And his family is rich, and you and I don't have any money. He laughed. We both laughed together. He said, yeah, but you know something? When we go out on that field in those uniforms, because we're part of the band, nobody can tell us apart. We all look the same. And I thought, David, this is a story. This is a life you're impacting. 45 years later at a band reunion, entitled One More Time. Have no idea where they came up with that, but that was the theme of the reunion, One More Time. Came time for the students' feedback, testimonials, comments. He gets up, and I'm sitting to the side of the podium there and 20 feet from him. He talked for a while. He said, I want you to know that this man, he pointed at me, he said, was the reason I finished high school. Was the reason I didn't drop out and get some useless job. But I went to a military career, a successful business career, have a wonderful family. He said, because of him and my band, I am where I am today. And I thought, you never know when those children are sitting in your room. You never know what they hear. Or what's the comment? What you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. One more quick story. Do I have time for one more quick one?
Real quick one.
Theory class, bright kids, enthusiastic. Every word you say, they write down. So we're into secondary dominance. And dominant seventh chord. Moving along great. Ready to move into the 5/7 chord. It's all this exotic 5/7. I'm writing on a marker board. And I turned to the class. I said, okay, any questions and opinions? And one guy raised his hand. I said, yes, sir. He said, Mr. Gregory, would you know that your right sideburn is longer than your left one? I said, what? Excuse me? He said, yeah. And I said, no. I said, no, it's not. And the whole class goes, oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So now I'm flummoxed. I'm standing up here, my hands to my face, trying to decide if it's true. And I said, well, why would you ever notice something like that, especially when doing 5/7 chords? She said, we notice everything. We notice everything you do, everything you say. We know how many pairs of pants you have to wear to school, how many pairs of shoes. We plus your marching band pair. We know this, we know that. And I thought, this is absolutely frightening, and it's absolutely challenging. So that's kind of what this book is about, reminding us that the why of what we do is at least as important of the how of what we do. Because when we have trouble, get into trouble, if you will, it will not be because we mistaught the quarter note triplet. It will be because of some other stuff of our business. Never lose sight of those children you are honored to serve from the podium, because each has a story to tell. It's your job to find those stories, help them tell it, and become music had made me better, and I hope I can make others better through my music.
Well, and your book sounds fantastic. Before I let you go, tell us where we can reach either your website or find out more about your book.
The book's published by Book Publishing Group Limited, but it's available on Amazon. 3 formats: ebook, paperback, hardcover. Student says teacher, David Gregory, pops right up. Order it and you'll have it in 2 days. I have booked 4, maybe 5 state conventions already for next year to make presentations on it. And I am already excited. It's not June 1, so it's going to be a great year. I hope you enjoy the book. And please, my email, MDG, Monday Delta George, Michael David Gregory, MDG at Mindspring, MINDSPRING.com, MDG at Mindspring.com. Let me know what you think. If you don't like it, tell me. That's okay. If you
if you go to a conference that David's speaking at, let him know you heard about the book or you heard him on the podcast, so that we know.
Absolutely.
And he can hear your stories.
Very graciously, I've been invited to be here. Thank you again, Lesley, for letting me share some time with you. And when I go to those clinics, I'll have some books with me. So yes, thank you so much for being part of this. And to all of you, remember, music can make you better. It can make your life better, make you a better person. It's your job to do the same thing for our students through their stories.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Thank you to our guest, Dr. David Gregory, and to all of you out there who keep showing up to teach music every day. Remember, success in music education is not just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. Thanks for listening, and keep making a difference in kids' lives through the magic of music education. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to work harder to be effective. You just need better support. Band Director Buddy GPT was created for music educators who care deeply about their programs but are tired of carrying everything alone. It's there to help you think through challenges, streamline the busy work, and protect your time and energy without lowering your standards. If that sounds like what you've been craving, head to banddirectorbuddy.com to explore how it works and decide if it's a good fit for you. Thanks for listening to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast and for the work you do every single day.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. Thanks for listening and keep making music happen.